Today we're going to talk about the 2-ton gorilla. You know the joke about the 2-ton gorilla? Where does the 2-ton gorilla sit at the party? Anyone know the answer? Anywhere he wants to. He's a 2-ton gorilla. And the 2-ton gorilla is the mind. So what are we meaning by that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Because we can understand, it's not so hard to understand that I'm not the body. The body's got all its wheels and pulleys and levers and, you know, we can understand that it's a machine. Krishna says we're riding on a machine made of material energy. That we're riding this body as a machine and we're riding inside it. But to understand that we're not the mind and that there's a difference between the intelligence and our actual self, our consciousness, that's a tough one to crack. But it's essential in spiritual life. So let's see what we can do here. I'll give you an example. And I did take some notes because I want to read you a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, of course, is the foundational book of our worldview, the Vedic worldview. And it was spoken 5,000 years ago by Krishna to Arjuna. Krishna takes the role of the perfect master. Arjuna takes the role of the perfect disciple. He plays the role of every man, of all of us, every person, and he's asking on our behalf. So that's the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. We're going to quote a little bit from it. But let me say this. How do we know that the wind is blowing? If I'm inside and I'm looking outside the window, how can I tell if the wind is blowing? Who said that? Hey, way to go. You see the symptom. You don't actually see the wind. Of course, now with pollution and so many things, you may actually eventually see the wind. But in principle, you don't see it. You see its symptom, right? You see the effect. Oh, the leaves are blowing. Oh, the wind must be blowing. You want to trade places? You could sit here. We'll take turns. Don't worry about it. Don't, at least your worries. You know it by its symptom. So the symptom, consciousness, is a symptom of the presence of the self, of the soul. And that consciousness pervades our body. I'll say it another way. Krishna describes in the Gita, we're going to have a quiz after this. Anybody who doesn't pass, no dinner for you. I'm just joking, don't worry. But picture a chariot, or in the cowboy movies, picture a stagecoach. So picture a carriage, then picture the horses, then you got to have the reins, then you got to have a driver, and inside the carriage or stagecoach is a passenger. We're going to run that past you again, and I'll explain what it means. You've got a carriage, you got the horses, you got the reins, you got the driver, and you have the passenger. Now, the carriage means this body. The passenger is the soul. The horses are like the senses. They're pulling us out. They're what's this? I smell that. What's that sound? So they're pulling us. The senses are pulling us out into the world, pulling our consciousness out into the world. So those are the horses. The mind is the reins. The mind's got a hold of them and kind of Like you get a menu, you know, all the different things. Oh, here's what's happening, here's what's happening, here's what's happening. So the mind takes all the impulses from the senses and presents us a picture. Here's what's happening. Now the intelligence, who's the driver, then makes a choice. The intelligence says, well, you got option A, you got option B. You know, a house is on fire. Well, you could roast some marshmallows or you could get out. You know, I mean, whatever. There's, you know, according to the circumstances, there's options. And the intelligence makes that choice. But we are actually only the passenger. We are not the body, the chariot. We're not the senses, the horses. We're not the mind, the reins. And we're going to talk about the mind a little more. And we're not the intelligence, the driver. We are the passenger. Now, why does that matter? It matters because the mind has two functions. It accepts and rejects. It's kalpa and sankalpa is the Sanskrit term. It's accepting and it's rejecting. And the subtleties of that is that the mind is hankering and lamenting. And we are whipshod. We are caught in the middle of this. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, I was the youngest in our family, and I wanted to go to school. My brother went, my sister went. Looked like a lot. I was getting tired of cartoons or whatever was happening at home. I wanted some action. So I went to kindergarten. It was fun for a few days. I said, okay, I'm going home. Enough of this. Been there, done that. I said, no. You're strapped on. So I thought, what? But I remember looking through the fence and seeing the elementary school. And they had a bigger swing set, they had a slide, they had a lot of action going on over there. So I was looking forward. I wasn't happy with my current situation. When I was at home, I wanted to go to kindergarten. When I was in kindergarten, I wanted to go to elementary school. After a little while, elementary school just wore on me. I thought, well, when I get in middle school, hey, there'll be, you know, whatever. There'll be sports, like, you know, it'll be fun, you know. So looking forward. That wore out, broke my collarbone. That was in sports. What to do? Well, there'll be girls, high school, you know, get a car. It's happening. I was looking forward. I'll be happy in the future. Then we all know what it's like. You graduate from high school, you can hardly wait to get out. You get into college. Hey, parents send money, free pizza, laundry. What more could you know? And then you talk, that's when they're a freshman. You talk to people in a college, if they're smart, they want to get out into the real world. They want to get out of college. Then when you get a job, you want to work your way to the top. Then when you get to the top, you think, oh, this is a drag. When can I retire? I'll be able to, you know, you get your retirement house by the lake or by the ocean when you retire. And what do you do when you retire? You're always looking forward. And then when you finally retire, you spend your whole time looking back. Oh, when I was high school and taught the homecoming pass, a homecoming game, or, you know, when whatever it was. You're looking, oh, when I was a young buck just starting out in the business world, and I climbed my way to the top. So when were you actually living? You're thinking about the past? You're thinking about the future? When were you actually alive? So these are some symptoms of the mind. The mind, it creates envy, it creates anger. There's a verse in the Gita. It says, from contemplation of the senses, attachment develops. I think I mentioned this last time. When I was a kid, I asked my father, you know, hey, these televisions, of course television was our thing then, we didn't have cable. I said, television's great. It's fantastic. You get all this stuff for free, all these programs. My father was a smart guy. My father said, you know, it's not free. Why do you think they're giving that to you? I was a kid. I didn't know. What comes along, and even online it happens, what comes along with the content? You got it, my friends. Advertisement. And what happened? You're minding your own business peacefully. You can see it in kids all the time. They're playing with a cardboard box, or they're fooling around, they're no problem. Then they see, oh, you don't have the latest whiz-bang. All the other kids have this. People are happy with their phone, then they come out with the latest, I don't know, Apple, whatever they're up to. Oh, geez, I got to upgrade. So from contemplation, attachment develops. You see it, you think about it, and they're relentless. I mean, they put advertisements on the floor of the supermarket, then they put them they're on the side. You can't escape. So from contemplation, attachment develops. Then, Krishna says, from frustration of attachment, anger comes. You want it, you don't get it, you get angry, you get frustrated. From anger comes bewilderment of memory, your intelligence becomes bewildered. And you fall into the material, anger, lust, greed, envy, and passion. And it's all due to the mind. So, in fact, the principle of yoga, the whole point of the exercise is not just so you can play soccer better or, lose weight. That's not the purpose of yoga, really. I mean, okay, fine. You can do some exercise. I'm not deprecating that. But the real purpose, if you read Patanjali, which is the source of the yoga system, it's a whole series of steps. And the whole point of the yoga postures is it so you can first off realize that the body is a machine, and then be able to sit, by pranayama, controlling the breath and all of that, you can actually fix the mind. You can actually get a sense, I'm not the body, I'm the self within, and you can, to watch the thing working. That's the key. If we can watch the mind, this is not me. Somebody offended me, I get deeply upset. Well, who knows what's going on in their life that caused them to do that? Does it really matter what they think about me? Is that really the key issue here? What about what I think about myself? Am I an honorable, charitable, kind, truthful person? That's what matters. I don't care what this person. Who cares what they think? What do they know about me? But we're completely caught on that. Or, so many things. So the point, I don't want to take too much time, but the perfection of yoga and of meditation. One man told my spiritual master, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, he said, when I chant, I see lights, I hear bells. He said, keep chanting, it'll go away. That's somehow the goal of yoga. The goal of yoga is actually to realize that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intelligence, I'm the soul within. And the reason when we do that, we get off we're stuck in a rut. And we keep going around and around and around. So I wanted to read a few verses from the Gita. And then, do we have a clock? We're flying blind here. I don't want to keep them too long. What's that? 8:16. We'll go a few more minutes more. So, this is from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And there's about 5-6 verses, and I think they're nice for you to go home and think about. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a person's intelligence. I was talking about from contemplation, attachment develops. Hey, that's cool. Thank you very much. All right. The senses are bringing in all the data, and we get attached to it. I like this place, I like this. If one's happiness depends on conditions, and conditions will change. That's the basic principle of Buddhism, which comes out of the Vedic literature. Nothing is certain but change. If my happiness depends on conditions, I got the right weather, I got enough money, I'm in the right place, I'm with the right people. If my happiness depends on conditions, and the very nature of this world is everything is changing, what does that say about my happiness? What's that? Yeah, it's not only is not certain, it's certain it's going to change. If my happiness depends on conditions, and conditions are always changing, then my happiness is going to be flickering. Happiness is going to be flickering. And I'm going to be in anxiety about it. I really can't hold it all together, and, what happens? I got to get Botox when I start getting wrinkles, or I get too fat, or, whatever it is. There's a lot of anxiety in this world. If one thinks they're the mind, or they think they're the body, or they think they're the senses, or they think... So that's what Krishna is talking about here. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a person's intelligence. One must deliver oneself with the help of one's mind and not degrade oneself. The mind is the friend of us and can be the enemy as well. They said, I found the enemy and the enemy is us. The enemy is actually the mind. I'm not saying become mindless. I'm saying to be conscious of the workings of the mind. And say, I had a friend anyway, it's a long story. But I don't know what the proper term is, but his brother was mentally challenged. I don't know what you say now, but I don't want to offend anybody. But the guy, my spiritual master would say, not quite in order. And I remember he picked me, first time I met his brother. My friend is driving. I'm sitting in the front seat next to him. His brother's in the back, who was mad as a hatter. Let me just say it. And we're driving down the freeway, a coast highway, stop and go, lights, and this, up in Laguna Beach. And the brother yells, "Look out for the truck!" Oh my God, red light, look out. There was nothing there. But he was seeing... I was a nervous wreck after about 15 minutes. But my friend was just driving along, because he just learned to tune the guy out. He just tuned him out, So if one can see the thing working, this is my mind, this is my ego, this is my pride. If you can look down and see those things working, you don't get so attached to them. So that's what Krishna's talking about here. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in meditation on the transcendent self. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, one thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. So that's to give you a little encouragement, if one can. There's different types of happiness. There's happiness in this is described in the Gita, just that there's so much in the Gita. It's like the handbook for how to live in this world. Every person should have the Gita and refer to it regularly, because it's the guidebook, it's the handbook. It's how does this world work? How does my mind work? How does how does it all work? How's it all related to each other, and how do I get through it? So, what was I going to say? Oh, well, there goes the mind. What's that? Just making sure you were listening. No, I actually did forget. Thank you very much. So different types of happiness according to the Gita. There's happiness which is in the mode of ignorance, which means it's misery in the beginning, misery while you're doing it, and misery afterwards. You see somebody lying in the gutter drunk, and they're singing, "How happy I am," and anybody else, he's got his pants on backwards, and he might have been a poet or a professor, and he's lost everything. But little shot of gala wine, and everything's okay. That's happiness in the mode of ignorance. Then there's happiness in the mode of passion, which is very sweet in the beginning, but it's bitter in the end. And there's so many things like that. I want it, I get it, and then happiness, but it wears off. It hits a saturation point. That's the nature of material happiness. So it's very happy in the beginning, but then it becomes bitter in the end. Because you lose it or you hit a saturation point. One of two things happens. You have to give it up, or you think, well, enough of that. So that's happiness in the mode of passion. It's sweet in the beginning and bitter in the end. Happiness in the mode of goodness, it's called Suddha Sattva. This is the platform of the yogic platform of controlling the mind. In that happiness, it's a little bitter in the beginning, but it's very happy in the end. It requires a little bit of effort. If I want to become a concert pianist, or I want to become a dancer, or I want to become whatever it is, if it's worth it, you usually have to put some work in. So it's a little difficult. Kids just want to play all day. They want to play all day and eat sweets. And their parents say, no, you got to go to school. You can't eat candy all day long. If the kid was allowed to do what he wanted, or she wanted, they'd be toothless idiots by the time they're 20. So, no, you got to, and if you go to school and get educated or whatever it may be, learn a craft, learn a trade, put in the hard work, then you have something of value that lasts. So on the transcendental or the spiritual plane, happiness, it takes some effort to control the mind, to control the senses, but there's a process, there's a science, and you can feel it. Just like when you're eating. If you're very hungry, we've all had that experience, and you sit down and you start eating, you can feel, as soon as you start eating, you feel some relief. And as you know, as you eat more, you get refreshed, you get rejuvenated. So as one seriously practices spiritual life, it's not that, you wait and you go to heaven and hope that, it all worked out, But even as you're practicing it, it becomes realized. So I want to end with one last thing, just one last example. The yogis in the past, to realize that they weren't the body or the mind or the senses, in the wintertime, they would go to the Himalayas, and they would sit in the winter in the rivers, freezing cold, up to their neck, just to realize, well, I'm not this body, I'm not the senses. And in the summertime, they'd sit with 4 fires, one on each side, just to transcend. Now, nobody's asking you or me to do that. If that was the program here, if when you showed up for the Krishna Lounge, if we said, everybody gets their own dunking tank, and you can sit up to your neck, and by the way, it's about, 50 degrees. Well, I don't know how many people would come back. Or, whatever. But the point is that in this age, this is called the age of Kali. The age of quarter. Just like every year has seasons. Of course, it's always pretty much the same in San Diego. But summer, spring, fall, and winter. There's seasons. The cosmos, our existence, according to the Vedas, goes through different cycles. There's there's summer, spring, fall, and winter. It's called. There's a golden age, there's a silver age, iron, copper age, and iron age. We're currently in the iron age, Kali Yuga, where everything is dense and materialistic, and there's constant friction. People are natural allies, husband and wife. Father and son, mother and son, husband and wife, and there's so much friction. It's the nature of this age. So my point is that in this age, people cannot practice the austere yoga processes. They just can't do it. And you won't get the result. In this age, I want to show you something. Do you have some japa mala there? Let's show them. This is Exhibit A. This is called Bhakti Yoga process for controlling the mind. Maybe some of you know these. And you'll find in every genuine, the Catholics chant on rosary. The Muslims, they're chanting on beads. Thanks. Buddhists chant on beads. Thanks, Baruch. This process, this is called a mala. Mala means like a garland, This is japa mala. And we chant we're full-time monks, we got some spare time. So we chant, so many rounds a day. But this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, you all know the mantra, you were chanting it. But that's kirtan, that's chanting out loud. And japa is soft recitation. And by chanting on beads, the sense of touch is engaged, the ear is engaged, your hearing, the tongue is engaged. This is samadhi. All the senses are fixed on one point. The mind is thinking about Krishna and thinking about, the verses in Bhagavad Gita, thinking about what's going on here, watching the mind work, watching. So this, we cannot recommend strongly enough. Whatever you're doing, we have all kinds of people who come to the Krishna Lance. We got doctors, we got farmers, we got housewives. We did a play one time in the temple, and we're almost done. And in the play, two devotees dressed up as policemen burst in the front door, said, "Nobody move!" Two guys shot out the side door. Like, what were they up to, Who knows? But they definitely had a guilty conscience, So, I mean, watch your wallet. No, all types of people show up at the temple. And our devotees, I don't want to take up your time, but so this is something that everyone can do. This chanting of japa. You get and we chant a minimum of 16 times, 108 beads. We chant 16 times. But, you can chant one round a day. Maybe takes you 5 to 10 minutes, 8 minutes probably, 6 minutes. I mean, we spend that much time standing, and waiting for the light to turn red or whatever it is, So if you carve out 10 minutes a day and chant one round of japa on these beads, the Hare Krishna mantra, I mean, the devotees can show you how. It's not a big deal. We use our thumb and the whatever you call this finger. What is this finger? Middle finger on the beads. And you sit in a peaceful place. You don't do it while you're driving your car or while you're watching, Fast and Furious or whatever's going on. You just chant on the beads peacefully, and I guarantee you, my guru told me, and he said to many people, he said, if you have a jar of honey, you can lick the outside of the glass and you'll never taste it. You got to open it up and taste it. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's what's called jnana, which means knowledge, and there's vijnana. Vijnana means realized knowledge. So jnana is theoretical knowledge. Okay, I understand that theoretically. Vijnana is when you actually experience, it becomes actualized or realized. So if one chants japa on beads, the Hare Krishna mantra, the result is the knowledge of the Gita, then all these different points become realized. It actually becomes, the mind becomes, mantra. Man means mind, tra means to deliver, to relieve, to expand. So by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, I mean, you can chant it walking down the street, you can sing it, whatever way it works. But chanting on beads is focused. You really, it's concentrated. And if you chant one round of japa a day, you come back to me in a month. I'm trying to think how much I can afford. No, I'm joking. You come back to me in a month, and I'll give you $100. If you, people are such cheaters in the age of Kali. It's the honor system, okay? If you chant one round a day, after a month, you will feel a profound difference. You'll think, wow, that you can't just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It didn't work for me. You have to dedicate yourself. You find a peaceful time in the morning. The best time is in the morning when you first get up. You get up, do your business, nice, clean, and you sit for just 5 minutes. It'll make your whole work day better. It'll make your school day better. It'll make everything better because the mind will be a little bit controlled. They say in boxing or any sport, whoever gets the first punch, whoever gets the first goal, that sets a momentum. It creates, if you're the one who gets knocked in the nose or tackled and they make whatever it is, you think, whoa, geez. So in the morning when you wake up, there's the mind, the 2-ton gorilla in this corner. And in this corner is the little jiva, the little innocent us, our real self. We're the 90-pound weakling. But if that little 90-pound weakling pops the mind right in the nose, no, I'm in charge here. I'm not getting on that merry-go-round. I'm not going to, what happened yesterday and who did this and, no, I'm not doing that. I'm in charge. You're not in charge. I'm in charge. And I'm going to think spiritual, peaceful thoughts. I'm going to get a jump on the mind and the intelligence. And that's what japa does. So we'll end there. But please, do these cost something, don't they? What do they cost? $5? $5. And if you don't have $5, hey, maybe you didn't bring your wallet, no problem. You can take home a set of these japa mala for free. Let's do it this way. If you got $5, great, because it just allows us to buy more from India. But if you don't have $5, no problem. Take it home with you. And after 1 month, if you don't feel a significant change, no problem. Keep them. Give them to a friend. But if you then after 1 month, then you can give your $5. So it's a, what do they say, money back guarantee. Okay, we'll end there, but it really is, it is the simplest, like E equals MC squared. It's a very simple equation. I mean, E equals MC squared. It's hard to get a more simple equation. But it's profound. It unlocks atomic energy. So it is a very simple, my guru used to say, simple and sublime. So it's a very simple process. But it is the most potent thing you can do. Okay, here they are with prasadam. So thank you very much for sitting so patiently. And now a word from our sponsor, Balaramji.